Hi, welcome to another edition of 10 for the Chairman. For those that you haven't seen this before, this is where I take 10 questions from the subscribers in our community and answer them to the best of my ability. Subscribers are the subset of backers that are contributing extra money every month to allow us to do an enhanced amount of community content. So this show, Around the Verse, which is sort of kind of a news variety show of what's happening, our Inside CIG background video pieces, Jump Point, which is sort of 50 to 70 page in-depth magazine we publish once a month that goes into how we built ships, how we design systems, has some fiction, some background on various areas of the universe, and then we do other fun things for subscribers like little elements of flair. So this week we actually just gave everyone a drinks cabinet, so I saw a lot of people drinking. Actually, you're meant to get drunk if you drink too much, but it worked in our profile build, which is sort of our pseudo debug build, and didn't work in the release build, so we'll actually address that in probably the next future patch. But yeah, we actually plan to have a little bit of fun. If you drink too much, you stagger around, just because it's cool. So anyway, thank you to subscribers for allowing us to do this, and I'll get on with the show. One thing before I get on with the show, I have a nice present here. I came back from PAX Australia about a week or so ago, and when I was out there in Sydney, I met up with a few nice members of our community, backers, and we got to talking. Well, one was Rob Irwin, who goes by Checkmate on the forums, and Jamie, who are both of Pan Galactic. So anyway, I had a nice chat, and a few other people were there too. But we got to talking about films and Star Wars and all the rest of stuff. And I had mentioned that the Star Wars making of book, which was done by J.W. Rinsler, was one of the best ones I'd ever read. And so here we go. Hang on, I'll open it up. I'll show you. But I have the Return of the Jedi one, and I have the Star Wars one, but I didn't until now have the Empire Strikes Back one. So anyway, let's say thank you very much. In case you guys haven't, if you are Star Wars fans, which I'm assuming quite a few of you are, then my recommendation is, if you're an aficionado of movie history or interested in the process of making movies, which is something that is far more difficult and complicated than you would think, then these series of books are amazing, especially the very first Star Wars one, because it sort of goes into how it all happened. And it was quite a long time for George Lucas to get everything together, and he wouldn't have been able to do it if he hadn't done American Graffiti, which enabled him, because it was at that point the most popular movie in American cinema history, and he had a back-end deal on it. So the money he took from that, he reinvested into Star Wars, and because at the time, at the very early days, none of the studios believed in it. Originally, he had a deal with MGM that fell out. Eventually, he ended up at Fox, but even Fox weren't really committed to it. So George Lucas, knowing that he had to build all these amazing effects and do something that some other people had never done before, he created ILM, and funded it himself, and did a lot of the pre-production and development and scouting, and all the rest was all actually done on his own dime. And he could have only done that if he'd, had without his back-end deal of American Graffiti, he couldn't have made it happen. So it's really interesting. You just sort of go through everything, including the early stages, script development, things he was working on. You have all these personal notes of, stuff he wrote back on the back of napkins, and it's really quite interesting seeing how even at the early stages, you could sort of see the shape of Star Wars, and it's a brilliant. It's probably the best researched making of film book I've read in anything. And being someone that's obviously made films, is obviously a big Star Wars fan. I would say it's by far the most useful film book I've ever read. And the Return of the Jedi one's great, and now I have the Empire Strikes Back one, and they have all sorts of awesome, on the set production, very, very, very detailed stuff. So thank you guys very much for that. And anyway, that's if you're into that kind of stuff, highly recommend it. All right, let's get to the questions. First question comes from Craig R910, who asks, How do you envision players getting into cells in the Cutlass Blue? Will they need to be incapacitated via injury restraints, then put into the cell by the player, or will there be a cutscene of you putting the player into your cell? In terms of the holding cells, we're sort of still figuring out quite the dynamics of if you're a bounty hunter and you go and get someone that's wanted, we don't really want you to be able to sort of hold someone in your cell indefinitely, because that's kind of enables griefing. So what we're kind of thinking is that when you capture someone, you capture them, they'll be in your cell for your intents and purposes, and when you land, you can drop them off for the authorities or whatever. But the the player that was captured sort of has a very small timeout and then ends up sort of in the whatever you want to call it. We've been talking about possibly having sort of a small sort of prison interstitial that's pretty easy to escape from, but it's sort of like a time-wasting penalty for getting caught if there's a bounty on your head and all the rest of the stuff. But essentially what we would probably do is put someone in your holding cell. So when you capture them, say you tractor them in out of space after you've blown up their ship, or maybe you stun them on a planet or something like that, if we're allowing you to do that, because we're still trying to figure out the sort of PvP and tracking bounty hunter aspects, then I think that person, or what they look like, will appear in the cell. And then on the other side, the other person that was captured, like I said, would sort of go about the process of sort of coming back into the game via their own way. So that's kind of what we're thinking. So probably, it'd be much more along the lines of sort of either appearing in the cell once you capture someone, or kind of a cutscene. There wouldn't really be sort of the dragging them around and placing them in the cell, because that is a lot of work for not really a lot of upside. It's sort of more the mundane stuff. All right, so next question comes from 48, who asks, I have noticed in a lot of the multiple cruise ships that they all have a co-pilot seat and numerous turret gunner seats. What can we expect the co-pilot to be able to do while in or out of combat? Will they have systems to manage and weapons to operate, or will they wait for the pilot to become incapacitated? Well, no, the idea on the multi-cruise ships is that the different seats allow you to split out the functions. So, obviously in a single-seater ship, you're flying it as well as managing your weapons, as well as managing your radar, as well as you don't manage your communication now, but you will be managing your communication. And you're managing your power allocation, so all the sort of things I have with energy. So on the bigger ships, the multi-cruise ships, we're allowing you to split out some of that functionality of the other seats. On a few like the Constellation, where you could fly by yourself or you could fly with some friends, that'll be sort of distributable between seats if you need to. On the very biggest ships, there'll be custom stations. Okay, this is the engineering station, this is the weapons control station, this is the helm, this is the comms officer, and all that kind of stuff. So we're definitely going to make it so the multi-cruise ships split out the functions between the various seats. And you probably will work a lot more effectively if you and some friends are operating it, because then you can sort of multitask on a higher level. And that's kind of the idea. I mean, I'm actually one of the biggest things I'm excited by in Star Citizen is, yes, the single-seater stuff, which is basically all you see in Arena Commander right now, is fun and cool and a whole nother level of fidelity than what I've done before. But really, I think it's when the cooperative play of you and some friends running a ship together, builds into that, along with all the mechanics of sort of adventuring around the universe in first person and being able to sort of go wherever you want. So it's not just stuck flying a ship, it's being able to get out an EVA and board a derelict ship, or go into an asteroid base, or walk around a planet. So those are kind of the elements, and I sort of feel like the cooperative play aspect of it will be really strong, and so we sort of emphasize that in the multi-crew ships, which will be fun in either a PvE situation, which there'll be a lot of in the universe, or a PvP situation, which if you want, you can definitely find and encounter. All right, next question comes from Rusty McKinnon, who asks, it seems like there are paths for many playstyles, including missions for salvagers, pirates, mercenaries, miners, etc. But is there going to be any space for scholars or diplomats? Will I be able to join a college or library and be sent on research missions to study a topic or retrieve an ancient relic? Will I be able to build a relationship with an alien race to the point that the UEE might name me an ambassador? I think that's a great suggestion. I think it's probably for us a little specific this early on. I mean, definitely, on the explorer side, there will be elements of exploration that sort of would tie into academia. I mean, if you think about it, Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's a university professor that goes after ancient relics, so that's kind of sort of the Tanya Oriel character we had that we did the sort of little sort of fiction series quite a while ago back on our site. So there probably would be a level of sort of exploration or investigating, searching for ancient relics that may be commissioned by a university and all that sort of stuff. But although I'm not sure they'll be writing up theses on all of that sort of stuff, although I'm pretty sure on a player fiction side that you guys will be doing a whole bunch of that. On the ambassador side or the diplomatic side, we currently don't have plans for that. I will say that we are considering some level of sort of more specialized roles. So, having sort of in-system reporters where players can go around and sort of record and report on stuff and give information in that could maybe go on newscasts and all that kind of stuff. We're going to create tools to allow people to do that. And we're also going to be sort of creating tools to allow people to sort of become part of the advocacy and some other stuff. So we are going in the way of allowing people to play hopefully most of the roles out there. I'm not sure if it will be quite as high level as a diplomat or something like that, but down the road you never know. I mean, that's part of our focus, is to allow this living universe to exist, and everyone doesn't always have to be the heroic soldier or the dastardly pirate. It's there's a lot of other things that I think people want to do and just sort of exist in this world, and we're kind of focused on making that happen because I think it's going to be more immersive. Of course, it will be a sort of staged thing as we sort of kind of feather in more and more roles, but that's kind of typical for online games. I mean, World of Warcraft has more classes now than it did when it first started. All right, next question comes from Chronic Silence, who asks, the addition of allowing users to create APIs to remove or automate many pleasant/tedious aspects of gameplay have been vital to keeping previous games alive. What features specifically do you have in mind for an API in Star Citizen? I think that's way too early to say. I mean, we don't specifically have a plan for sort of any API for gameplay. I mean, there is a certain level of API that on the website that we're planning on a longer term basis to allow people to sort of scrape data from their organization or what they're up to so they can deal with the data and manage it and share it with their friends in the manner they would like. But we don't really want to sort of create APIs to allow players to run around and auto mine or do any of that kind of stuff, because it sort of defeats the purpose of it playing and existing in the world. We are going to try and make sure that things don't seem tedious. You don't have to do something again and again and again repetitive that doesn't seem to have much challenge. So that's just a sort of general good gameplay thing. So I would say we're not going to do an API to allow you to automate gameplay. So there you go. Chillzilla asks, I'm curious to know if the mobiGlass is also used as an alternate communication device between players. If so, can it be used as a means of communication, both text and verbal, as you would a cellular phone, between players during battles in ships and while planetside to other players on ships? Well, you'll definitely be using the mobiGlass as a sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, an IM device. Or looking up or pinging your friends. When you're on a ship, you'll be plugged into the ship systems, and the ship systems have their own sort of very specific comm system that ties into the signature system that we have, and a whole bunch of other things that would come in. But when you're not running around in your ship and you're down on the ground, you can pull up your mobiGlass and go, hey, what's up? Which is, very similar to the functionality of modern day smartphones, which is essentially what the mobiGlass is. It's sort of like the next level of that with sort of augmented reality and some other things. All right, next question comes from Sierra117, who asks, throughout history, cosmic events have been cultural and historic triggers for many large and significant occasions. Will we see large significant events like solar flares, Halley's Comet, and solar eclipses triggering things like national holidays or large-scale reactions among the populace, and if so, how will this be tied into the economy and culture of a system, planet, or city? Yes, that is definitely something that we are actually planning on. I mean, so from our standpoint, sort of the big cosmic events are some of the elements that we use as, once the game is live, as game masters to sort of create events. So, we could, create a cosmic event that leads to a famine on a planet, which in turn makes there's a huge demand for food to be shipped into that, which will create player missions, or there's a huge disaster somewhere and people have to go in to ship people out to save them because the world's going to blow up in 2 months' time, or whatever it would be. So we're actually planning on using sort of cosmic events occasionally to kind of stir things up in the galaxy. So if we sort of feel things are stagnated, we're going to use a few of these things to sort of change it up a little bit and change the playing field a bit, to just constantly keep things sort of on the move and interesting. And all the events will have sort of an effect on what's happening out there in the universe, because the economy is sort of essentially the kind of rule set that sort of drives what everyone is doing, what makes them get up in the day, what they're doing, what their job is, how they react when something happens. So think of like a cosmic event, like throwing a stone into a still pond, and all the ripples go out, and that's kind of what we're planning on doing. Okay, next question comes from Ninja N Short, who asks, when salvaging derelict ships, is it possible to encounter with some unknown life form on board? I think it might be fun and fearful to have an encounter with a creature of unknown origin and force you to play a deadly hide and seek. Yes, it will be very fun and it will be very fearful, and we are going to do that. I actually have talked about this on a few occasions. These are all the kind of elements of gameplay that Star Citizen opens up, because it is all in first person. It's not tied to your cockpit. So really, we're sort of, we're a space first person adventure simulation game. So we can go around on our feet, or we can get into a vehicle, which is a spaceship, and fly around from planet to planet and planet. So it just sort of is, allows for a whole range of stuff. And because of that, because we're spending all the time to build all these systems up front and making sure they all work together in a holistic fashion, there's a lot of things that we're going to get to do, besides just the simple, like, okay, let's fight someone in space, or let's beat off the pirates, or let's escort this cargo ship to its destination, or let's go searching for a bounty. So we can do a lot, including things like EVAing over to derelict ships, exploring them, getting attacked by NPC, alien creatures that jump down from the ceiling, and we are planning on doing a lot of that, both in space and on the planet side. So essentially, there's going to be, I've always talked about sort of a 90-10% ratio between NPCs and players in the world is kind of how we're going to make sure the economy doesn't get imbalanced. But also, there's going to be a huge amount of people call it PvE encounters, but NPC encounters. So even if you're into player versus player, a lot of going around, you're going to encounter NPCs going about their life and get into tussles with them, whether it's down on the planet or up in space, and that's just going to make the world feel alive and big and kind of fun and also in some levels, we're on not all the NPCs, but some of the NPCs we're going to make fun to defeat. The same way Vandal Swarm, you can go through 15 waves, but you probably wouldn't be able to go through 15 waves of real players. So that's all part of how we make the world feel alive, and all the different elements sort of will have a level of immersion. It won't just be sort of like the old Wing Commanders or Privateers, where most of all the action basically happened in the cockpit. We can go anywhere, and we're really going to utilize that. And so we're sort of thinking about how to do that in terms of really cool encounter templates on different areas and locations that we can sort of spawn based on the situation or what the economy is telling us. And I think it's going to make some really compelling gameplay. Next question comes from Nameless, who asks, will there be an FPS weapon showroom similar to showrooms for spaceships? Yes, definitely. There will be places you can go buy personal equipment, weapons, items, clothes. Maybe not all in the same place, but definitely all these shops will exist, and you can buy them mostly through your Mobi-Glass using the augmented reality mode, which is pretty cool, and down the road we'll be showing you that. Actually, pretty early next year, it'll be part of our social module that we'll be releasing. But if you haven't been watching closely, I think we had a couple of concept pieces that we shared. One was Cubby Blast, which is down on ArcCorp, and Stanton, I believe, and it's cool. And I've seen it in 3D model at the moment, and it's gonna be cool. So you can go around and see your weapons. I want to buy that, and your Mobi-Glass, if you have it up, will bring the augmented reality display with how much it costs, and it's gonna be cool. So yes, you will have the showrooms and stuff there. Next question comes from Gleep, who asked, how do you envision a person flying a Cutlass Red or Misk Endeavour hospital ship making money? Will we receive a payment once our medical bay heals someone? On the healing and charging for this stuff, so there's several aspects, like someone doing rescue and recovery, someone healing. So we're definitely going to build a system that people will be able to charge for services for doing things. So in that case, yeah, I mean, basically you'd be like, okay, I'll heal you for so many credits, and then you got to pay them if you accept to be healed. So it'll be sort of a transaction done. I've talked about this sort of transactional job board system, which you can rate the person that you've hired, and the person that you've hired can rate you, and that would also be sort of the barter payment system too. So once you're in that, it would make sure that okay, the mission can only be accepted if the person saying I'll pay that actually has the credits to pay it, and vice versa. And so it will prevent people sort of saying, oh, I'll pay and then not paying kind of thing. But yeah, you would basically say, okay, this is what I do, and I pay me for this, and then I will do it. And then we just need to make sure that we either enforce you doing it or not. So probably what we'd do is if someone didn't heal someone when they took the job to heal them, they would either have to refund the money, or they would be suspended from using sort of the job service until they actually were told that they were performing their service, and there's probably some kind of review process for that. But that's very similar to the way the Uber app works, where if you don't have any money in your account and you took a ride and they couldn't charge a credit card for the account, and they said, well, you can't use Uber until you've settled up with us. Anyway, that's the way that would work. So I think people will be able to specify, and I don't know whether we'd regulate prices for like healing someone. We may do it, may make it simpler so people can't charge, or we may allow people to set their own prices, or perhaps have a base price that's recommended, and then people could say, well, in this situation I'll charge you so much for it, and people could say yes or no. But again, that's all the sort of stuff they deal with in Uber, which is a really cool thing to rip off. Okay, next question, or last question actually, comes from Emulator, who says, will there be different grades of fuel? Think 87, 89, 93, 99 octane. Could there also be different grades of jump fuel? Yes, there are going to be different grades of fuel. I'm not so sure there's going to be different grades for basic sort of maneuvering with the different octanes, which is the analogy here. But what's going to happen is that the boost fuel, sort of the afterburner fuel, is a different kind of fuel, or purer, more compact or compressed than the general fuel that you used for your normal propulsion basis. And then the jump fuel would be different too. So we just have these different kinds of fuels. The boost fuel is is more expensive, is a bit more work to refine. The general sort of traveling around fuel is much easier to sort of scoop up in gas giants and all the rest of the stuff. So we're actually sort of in the middle of our sort of fuel system design, but there will be different categories of fuel. There'll be different equipment that you can use to refine it. Like I said, the sort of boost fuel will be the most expensive, of most of the stuff I would think, or perhaps to jump. I mean, it sort of all depends, but there would definitely be different kinds of levels of refinement. There could potentially be, a base kind of boost fuel and a premium boost fuel that could maybe boost you a little bit more, and that would be only from a very rare kind of gas that you would get in certain areas that would be hard to refine and do that sort of stuff. So that's all kind of on the cards, because we think that would be an interesting level of sort of gameplay. People can make a business out of refining fuel and selling fuel. It's resource management, so it should be kind of fun. And there probably will be sort of the basic stuff you can use, and then if you're that guy that really likes to, or that girl that really likes to sort of tweak your ship and have that premium stuff in it and the overclocked weapons, and that's what kind of you would go for. So there you go. So kind of, but not 100% would be the answer there. All right, that is the last of the questions for this week. I'd like to say thank you very much for watching another episode of 10 for the Chairman. We're kind of coming up almost on 1 year's worth. And I appreciate everyone backing the game. I mean, it's amazing where we're at in terms of the amount of money that you guys have contributed to allow us to be making a game at this ambition and level. So thank you all, both all the backers out there, all the subscribers. We're hard at work working on Arena Commander 1.0, which has a lot of sort of the ship system stuff and the signature and the missile stuff, and more weapons with better balancing, and also a lot of the ships that you guys want to fly will be available in 1.0. So it should be quite a big update, and hopefully you guys will like it. So we're working really hard on that. So next month is when we're planning to get it to you, to sort of middle, end of the month, but not right at the end, because obviously that's Christmas. But yeah, we're having fun. Thank you so much, and I'm going to see you guys next week. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching 10 for the Chairman. If you guys would like to see more episodes, go here. If you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel and always keep up to date with all our video content, go here. And if you guys would like to watch episodes of Around the Verse, go here please. And I will see you in the verse.